Hello and welcome to round 5 of Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. I'm Tim Willoughby, here with Randy Buehler, and we talked about some exciting decks for the last round. This round, we got them.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
There are some very, very spicy ones, and we know the players are ready and raring to go. We're going to head down to the feature match area so we can show you exactly what's come from Dragons of Tarkir here at Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. Hello and welcome to round 5 of Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. I'm Tim Willoughby, here with Hall of Famer Randy Buehler, and we in our feature match area have a number of great players. Starting on our video table on the left of our screen, that's Seth Manfield. He started off 4-0. He has had some incredibly good starts at Pro Tours recently. I believe it's 15 rounds or so before he picked up a loss at the last one, and he's up against Jamie Parke from the USA there, looking at his hand. Now, both of these players have some really interesting deck lists, Randy Buehler.
Oh my God, the Jamie Parke deck. I'm so glad we get to see this. Jamie Parke is playing, I'm not kidding, Chromanticore Soulflayer. He's playing Chromantiflayer in the constructed portion of this Pro Tour. And he's not the only one. Zvi Malshewitz apparently put this together, and not all of the Pantheon has joined the Chromanticore Soulflayer team, but there's more than 2 of them.
I want on that team. That sounds like a fun team to be on.
It does, doesn't it?
And we can see that there is a Soulflayer in Jamie Parke's hand. Let's talk players through a little bit if they're not quite familiar with how this one works, because it's a little bit of a jigsaw. Like, Soulflayer, if you just cast it for 6 mana, doesn't necessarily do all that much, but it's got Delve, and that's the important thing. If a creature card with flying was exiled to Soulflayer's Delve ability, then Soulflayer gets flying. Also, it's the same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance.
Where are you going to get all those keyword abilities from, Tim?
Pretty much all of them are on a Chromanticore. You don't get Haste in there, but Flying, First Strike, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink. If you cast a Soulflayer and it gets anything close to that number of abilities, then it's a very, very problematic Soulflayer to deal with. And Jamie Parke's deck is exactly the kind of deck that can get a Chromanticore in the graveyard very easily. It's got the Stated Wayfinders, such as the one we saw Jamie Parke cast just there. It's got Den Protector to get back some of the threats from the graveyard if it works out that the wrong things are going in the wrong places.
I wonder if Seth Manfield knows about this. I'm thinking about that. His board just looks like a Sidisi Whip deck so far, right? Stated Wayfinder, Spill, Soulflayer? What? I mean, that's probably all he needed to see. Meanwhile, Seth on the other side has a more straightforward deck. So Seth's deck, you see the name there. It looks kind of like Abzan mid-range, but there's a couple Dragonlord Atarkas in the list, too. There's a
Dragonlord Atarka in Seth Manfield's hand. Now, looking at the mana base of Seth Manfield's deck, the sum total of lands that produce red mana to cast Dragonlord Atarka appears to be 2 Nomad Outpost and 1 Haven of the Spirit Dragon.
He's got Caryatids too, right?
I guess, yeah. This is very much a kind of base Abzan deck that says, I've got some mana fixing. Every now and again, I might need to go big, and it's really hard to pick anything bigger than Dragonlord Atarka.
Sometimes you just need an 8/8 flying trampler, right?
I mean, that will beat a Soulflayer that's got lots of abilities.
Although, there is one other ability that's not on the Chromanticore, but sometimes you spill Pharika into the graveyard, and your Soulflayer is indestructible.
This is true. Also, potentially, you could give it Death Touch.
Yep.
I mean, there's an awful lot of powerful stuff that can be done with your Soulflayer. We know that there's at least one available. Well, there's one in Jamie Parke's hand. There's another one he could get back if he really wants to from his graveyard. And in the meantime, Death Mist Raptor coming into play is a 3/3 Death Touch, another way of giving a Soulflayer Death Touch if you so wish.
I was not expecting this deck to show up at this Pro Tour, not going to lie.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that there's been various players trying to make things with Chromanticore work for a while now. Not necessarily been seen on even the middle tables of tournaments, to be perfectly honest. It's more of a talking point than necessarily something we've seen in competitive play. But this Pro Tour, some of the best names in the game have decided this what do they want to be battling with.
You know, and it sounds like this is not a deck. If you talked to any of those guys a week ago, they didn't think they were going to be playing it either. But Zvi put it together, and they just started testing it, and it just kept winning and winning. And so, you know, some of the guys are like, all right, I guess I'm playing Chromantiflayer at the Pro Tour.
And Seth Manfield there with an utter end on Deathmist Raptor. That pretty much the perfect way of dealing with a Deathmist Raptor, because it basically, under normal circumstances, the graveyard is not a safe place to assume it's going to stay. Jamie Parke here. Commune with the Gods, I think that was.
Yep.
So he's going to get a chance to look for an enchantment, potentially. And you know what? Amongst other things, Farika is an enchantment.
Mm-hmm.
A tempting option here, even though he's got one in hand. Instead, that looks like a Sidisi. We are actually seeing relatively frequently both versions of Sidisi in various decks.
Just the Brood Tyrant in this one.
Just the Brood Tyrant in this one, I think.
Yep.
But the Undead Vizier is certainly a popular choice in many lists. Now, we actually haven't really covered much about the other matchups going on in our area. You can see just in the background there, Willie Adel is playing against Shuhei Nakamura. Patrick Chapin, obviously he's in the feature match area. He's not planning on leaving it anytime soon. He's against Roberto Esposito. But Shota Yasuoka, one of my deck building heroes, one of the people that...
Not just yours.
If you want to learn about how to build a constructed deck, Shota Yasuoka is a fantastic person whose work to study. He's already a game up with Blue-Black Control against Josh McClain's Green-White Devotion. Now, how Blue-Black Control is winning the first game in this feature match area, I'm not quite sure, but I'm really hoping we get a chance to find out.
They do let those guys start before we get the cameras rolling on the feature table sometimes.
It can happen from time to time. I mean,
still,
also,
it's the first game done
Shota
in the feature
Yasuoka
matches.
can play at a blistering pace when he wants to. That's something that is... Is that a Soulflayer in play?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. What? How many abilities did it get? Indestructible...
Even if it only got indestructible, that's a pretty solid start for a Soulflayer. Also, let's not forget that it's a 4/4 that is costing substantially less than 6 much of the time.
Help, Marshall.
It has...
Oh, hexproof from the Caryatid. So it's hexproof and indestructible?
Wow, so he's just gone monstrous with a Fleece Mane Lion without having to go to all of the trouble of going monstrous with a Fleece Mane Lion.
Or paying... We basically paid the 2 mana. That's what it costs to get a Fleece Mane Lion into play, right?
I'm excited.
He's 4-0, too. Clearly, Jamie won last round. Won his draft pod.
Could it be that Soulflayer is a game changer in Standard?
It's not like the deck got a ton of new toys from Dragons. I mean, I'm not sure. It did get some new toys, right? I got a couple of Den Protectors help. Certainly, Den Protector Deathmist Raptor is awesome synergy. And I think maybe having that Death Touch creature in there, having the Deathmist Raptor, it's a good shell to have Deathmist Raptor in.
Yeah, I mean, in some
it's
respects,
not fundamentally a Dragons-fueled deck. It's just, a couple new cards that helped.
Now, if you're Jamie Parke, how likely do you think it is that Dragonlord Atarka is on your radar for what's happening on the other side of the table?
Out of what's pretty clearly an Abzan deck?
Yeah, I mean, this is early on enough in the day that the information battle has not been won. Like, even if you've got a big team that's trying to find out what the good players are playing, there's a very real chance that you've got this listed down as just being Abzan and you haven't got that extra word Atarka in front of it in your notes. Seth Manfield there, wiping his brow, having a little think about exactly what's going on the other side of the board here, because this is a case where Dragonlord Atarka isn't really going to get it done.
No, he's like doubly protected against Atarka. Indestructible and hexproof. Although Atarka races pretty well.
There is that.
Blocks okay.
I mean, Jamie Parke with 2 copies of Den Protector in his hand, he can potentially get back another Soulflayer or indeed anything else with the Megamorph ability on that Den Protector. In the meantime, Sidisi Brood Tyrant puts another Soulflayer into the graveyard. That means that there will be a zombie token coming along soon enough. Yeah, I'm a big fan of how Jamie Parke is operating at this this Pro Tour. A much more classic set of interactions on the other side of the board. You've got your Sylvan Caryatid, you've got your Courser of Crufix, you're playing lands off the top, you're gaining life, you're shuffling away. This is all very much kind of... Expected. I mean, I'm kind of hoping we get to see a reaction shot at the moment that there's a card on top of Seth Manfield's deck that is, frankly,
8/8.
not meant to be there. Here we go. He flips it. No reaction. I'm guessing it's something fairly standard.
Dragonlord Atarka is now in play. I think that counts on our dragon counter. It should count twice. It's the size of 2 dragons stapled together, isn't it?
Normally, Dragonlord Atarka, when it comes into play, able to just really work a number on the opposing side
and here
of the board.
Jamie calmly just picks up Sidisi and the zombie. It's like, it's a card for a card. No big deal.
I mean, Jamie is on 2 Atarka swings worth of
16.
life.
That is certainly the real thing that's going on. Is Atarka didn't really clean up Jamie's board, but it's threatening to just attack in the air a couple of times.
But we've seen a lot of players in the feature match area already moving in the direction of playing decks with black in. Black removal, quite happily able to deal with dragons just as well as it can deal with smaller creatures. And Jamie's starting to give the game away in terms of what he's up to here. There's a Silumgar, amongst others, going to the graveyard off this Commune with the Gods.
Which ability does Jamie have to just kill an Atarka? 3 murderous cuts? Yeah, it's just 3 murderous cuts. Main.
Yeah, I mean,
there's more removal on the board, of course.
After sideboarding, I mean, the interesting thing for these matchups is that I don't think that either player can necessarily have built a sideboard with exactly this in mind. But there are some relatively common themes in Standard about doing cool things with the graveyard or casting gigantic monsters that is reasonable to play around.
How good is the 1 life gain from Courser here? 16 and 17 seem like relevantly different numbers.
Absolutely. We've gone from a 2-turn clock to a 3-turn clock, and 3 turns is pretty good for Jamie Parke.
Oh, did he tap the Mana Confluence along the way? Okay, not yet.
Just a result from one of our back tables there. Shuhei Nakamura has picked up his first game against Willie Adel. Adel on Sidisi Whip up against Green-White Aggro from Shuhei Nakamura. Nakamura able to take the first game there. Hero's Downfall, normally great when you've got a bunch of creatures on the other side of the board. The biggest creature on Jamie Parke's side of the board, completely untroubled by that Hero's Downfall. In the meantime, though, Jamie Parke, half of his life gone in one big swing from Dragonlord Atarka. So yeah, our dragon count currently at 15, I believe. I feel like there should be an exclamation point on that or something at least. So there is the ultimate price.
Which means Jamie's not going to be able to gain a life to, not going to be able to buy that turn. Mana Confluence has basically cost him a turn. Now Jamie's sitting on not a lot of answers. Farika's not really going to help.
Does he have enough mana to be able to flip up a Den Protector? And is there a Murderous Cut in the graveyard? It looks like there might be one.
There is a Murderous Cut in the graveyard. So, what is it, 2 to flip it?
I believe so. It's going to be close.
Yeah, I think he can face down Den Protector. Yeah, it's 2 mana to Megamorph it. So he can potentially unmorph the Den Protector, regrow Murderous Cut, shoot down Atarka. I think he's got exactly enough mana to do this. Seth points Hero's Downfall at it, so that'll force Jamie's hand. He's delighted to soak up this Hero's Downfall here, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a very limited number of things that were going to help here.
Oh, wow, he gets a Deathmist Raptor back in addition to the Murderous Cut. Not bad.
That's a lot of time.
Wow.
I mean, even taking a point there in the process, I don't think that Jamie Parke's going to mind all too much. He's ended up with more on the board than he started with.
Crazy.
Murderous Cut there. When it costs 5, it's pretty good in Limited. When it costs 1, it's pretty good in every single format.
And Seth knows it's coming, but what's he going to do about it?
Yeah, Seth Manfield's hand here. 2 Elspeth Sun's champion. Normally a very powerful card. Not necessarily going to be fantastic at dealing with what Jamie Parke's got going on. Abzan Charm and the Hero's Downfall there.
Jamie carefully delving away things that do not have creature abilities written on them.
Yeah, the exile pile there, bigger than now than the graveyard. Jamie making full use of all of the zones wherever he can. We've got another result here. Patrick Chapin has dropped his first game against Roberto Esposito of Italy. Esposito currently 1-0 up against the Abzan mid-range deck from Patrick Chapin. That, another Sidisi Whip deck in this feature match area.
A little more Sidisi Whip floating through the feature match area than I was expecting.
And now, once the big creatures are out of the way, Elspeth Sun's champion comes along, bringing 3 friends. So she's going to be a tricky one for Parke to get through, at least in terms of attackers.
Yeah, he hasn't found a Chromanticore, right?
He has not. I mean, given his mana base, it is actually possible for him to bestow a Chromanticore too, right?
Deathmist Raptor gets spilled in.
So here, another Commune with the Gods helping Jamie Parke here. Because he's making such use of his graveyard, the fact that he's getting 1 from 5 in his hand and 4 in the graveyard is actually just great news for him.
Mm-hmm. He's got decent attacks, too. I mean, Deathmist Raptor is obviously Death Touch. 3/3. Okay, fine. You want to trade 3 tokens for it? We can play that game. Jamie can get it back. Soulflayer is indestructible, so he's going to be able to push. I don't think Elspeth can make tokens fast enough.
And there's another morph from Jamie Parke. We know that that morph is another Den Protector. And that just means that effectively, I mean, we see the reason that Jamie Parke has his graveyard kind of splayed out on one entire corner of our screen there, is that face-down Den Protector in play will be able to get back a card from his graveyard, and there's plenty of options in there.
Seth goes chump chump. Yeah, not going to try killing the Deathmist Raptor.
The other thing that's worth noting here, Jamie Parke has been quite coy playing on his Farika God of Affliction. He does have sufficient devotion between green and black with that Soulflayer, with that Deathmist Raptor, that he's going to have a large indestructible creature. Sorry, another large indestructible creature.
Sure.
A couple of draws for him, Seth Manfield. We see both of them thanks to Corsa, so that a Sidisi Undead Vizier and a Hero's Downfall. Satyr Wayfinder on top, the fuel for both of these decks doing great things, though admittedly not quite the same great things. Now, the addition of Sidisi Undead Vizier has changed the way that a number of decks are built, because it's given the opportunity to have meaningful one-offs. And it looks like, in terms of Seth Manfield's deck, those one-offs include things like 1 Whip of Erebos, 1 Tasigur the Golden Fang, 1 copy of Utter End. All of these potentially quite important. He's got 1 copy of Haven of the Spirit Dragon. Now, I'm not sure if I really want to take an entire turn off to be able to get back my Dragonlord Atarka.
You sure?
Well, he can always just search up another Dragonlord Atarka for
Sure.
now. He has an awful lot of good things to find, and when you've got Elspeth pumping out tokens, the exploit really doesn't feel like too big a deal in terms of losing anything big on the board.
Well, here's Den Protector again. Silumgar,
That's pretty good against soldier tokens.
not bad. Silumgar, the Drifting Death, is the card being targeted by Den Protector.
So quite a few ways of giving a Soulflayer death
It's true.
hexproof if you wish as well. All these casual abilities thrown around, if you happen to slap them on one creature, it becomes quite a scary creature. And Silumgar the Drifting Death, of course, also able to say, when I attack, or whenever any dragon you control attacks, creatures defending player gets -1/-1 until the end of the turn. If we look at the creatures on Seth Manfield's side of the board, it's going to leave him with just a Sylvan Caryatid at 0/2 and a Courser of Crufix at 1/3. Not a particularly exciting place to be, even at 15 life.
Jamie playing pretty cautious with this attack, sending only the Den Protector. Soulflayer and Deathmist Raptor staying home this time around. He's worried about the crackback, worried about his 8 life, and feels like Silumgar gives him the game as long as he has time to cast it and attack with it.
Yeah, and the Den Protector it's done its work now. It's
right. And now it's soaked up in Abzan Charm too.
And there's Silumgar, the Drifting Death. So potentially there's going to be 2 indestructible creatures, 2 hexproof creatures in play if Pharika comes along next turn. Great board building here from Jamie Parke, but in the meantime, another update from the back table. Shota Yasuoka, we're not going to get a chance to see any of his blue-black control deck this round, I'm afraid, because he's already won 2 games to 0 over Josh McLean.
He's 5-0 now?
He is 5-0. That does mean there's a pretty good chance we'll see him in the feature match area sometime fairly soon.
Fair enough.
Oh, wow. In terms of dragon count, Icefall Regent into Silumgar over there. So that one...
Into Ugin.
Into Ugin. Now, it wasn't on camera. I don't know if we count that. But it does mean that I really, really want to get him into the feature match area in a future round.
I think it doesn't count. It wasn't on camera. Still pretty cool.
Speaking of cool dragons, though, the second of our cool dragons for this game, in fact, Dragonlord Atarka did not manage to make it to the end of the game. It seems more likely to me that Silumgar is going to hang around for a little bit longer. Quite a difficult one to deal with, that one. And lands straight off the top there, thanks to Courser of Crufix for Seth Manfield. He gains a life off that and reveals a Thoughtseize on top. He's got a hand with plenty going on. A couple of copies of Heroes Downfall, Elspeth, Sidisi, Undead Vizier, Satyr Wayfinder, and another Dragonlord Atarka there. But in some respects, his answers don't seem to match up particularly well against Jamie Parke's threats.
Yeah, all those Elspeth tokens do not seem like they're going to enjoy fighting Silumgar.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie Parke does have to deal with Elspeth this turn. At 7 loyalty, it is threatening an ultimate, and once the ultimate happens, in short, all sorts of bad things happen. The slightly longer version of that story...
What's happening? What's happening here? Why is all that mana tapped?
Oh my. You don't see too much bestow in Standard, but when you do, it's great. Chromanticore comes into play, bestowed onto an already terrifying Soulflayer.
Hexproof, indestructible.
It's currently a hexproof, indestructible, flying first strike, vigilance, trample, lifelink, 8/8. If it dies...
and it doesn't even count as a dragon. This has to count as an honorary dragon somehow.
It's not of Tarkir.
Can we start a Manticore count?
If it were a Chimera, it would be a third of a dragon.
I want to start a Manticore count. Wow, that's insanely awesome.
So, swinging for 8.
This whole game, Jamie just needed
8.
to find a Chromanticore. He finally found a Chromanticore, and it's just like, good grief.
Things that you did not want to ever have to deal with in a game of Magic the Gathering. Jamie's like, fine, Thoughtseize me.
Yeah, okay.
All the biggest threats are already out there. And that enough to get the...
He's seen enough.
He's seen a lot.
He has.
I mean, I'm sure that in some respects, Jamie Parke was kind of hoping that he didn't have to show that Chromanticore, but as it is, he got there. He won the game, and we'll be back for game 2 soon enough, right after these messages.
Friday Night Magic has expanded to include all formats. Get ready for Commander, Legacy, or even Conspiracy drafts. Check out your local store for details and share your FNM stories by using the hashtag MTGFNM. Visit magic.wizards.com/FNM for more information. Start on your road to the Pro Tour by playing in a preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. With more than 2,000 WPN locations running events, you're sure to find one near you. Visit magic.wizards.com/PPTQ for schedules and information.
Hello and welcome back to round 5 of Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. We're going to have a quick little look in on one of our other matches while our main table is just shuffling up for game 2. So we've got Shuhei Nakamura, the Hall of Famer, up against Willie Adel over on one of our back tables here. We can already see that Shuhei Nakamura's green-white deck has quite a few interesting cards in there. There's been a couple of Dromoka's Command played already, but a Boon Satyr in play, a Boon Satyr already in the graveyard for Shuhei Nakamura, up against Sidisi Undead Vizier. Now, Sidisi, quite the roadblock in this matchup that also presumably has found Willie Adel something very, very powerful indeed.
Yeah, Shuhei's deck is it's a green-white aggro deck. Deck designer, Brian Kibler.
Awesome.
And a couple of cards you may have just seen Jamie Parke exploiting to pretty good benefit. Both Den Protector and Deathmist Raptor feature heavily in this.
We did just see a Den Protector getting back a Boon Satyr, so we may see our second bestow of the round.
Wow.
End Hostilities has never looked better.
Yeah. Indeed, we do see our second bestow of the round.
And Willie Adel says, I'm not sure I want you to start attacking just yet. Effectively, just this Den Protector going from 0 to hero here and then right back to the graveyard. Or actually, is that even enough to kill it? A Bile Blight there is just making it a little smaller.
Well, as a response. Oh, God's Willing. God's Willing saves it from the Bile Blight before the Boon Satyr can get there.
And also means that the only potential blocker for it is that morph, not Sidisi Undead Vizier. Willie Adel taking a chunk of damage here.
What's Willie's record? 3-1?
Willie is currently 3-1. Don't know quite how that was split between the draft rounds and the constructed. I mean, this is the sort of deck that Willie Adel very comfortable with. He's played a lot of Abzan. He's played a lot of Jund over the years. This is certainly a deck that will be in his sort of zone.
Wow.
Shuhei Nakamura, though, he's just played so much Magic that I'd struggle to say that there are any decks that really aren't in his zone in terms of playing a great game of Magic the Gathering.
I mean, the biggest upset here with the Shuhei Nakamura deck is that it's a Brian Kibler design that doesn't have any dragons in it.
Boo.
Yeah, no, this is lower to the ground. This is basically trying to attack and win the game before, the big dragon decks can get their big dragons into play. It's Boon Satyrs and Surrak the Hunt Caller, Deathmist Raptor, Den Protector, trying to hit super hard, super fast.
I mean, a potentially lethal attack here from Shuhei Nakamura. It's almost certain to meet with a number of blocks from Willie Adel, but Shuhei Nakamura, he's got Willie Adel down in single digits, and that's kind of exactly what you need to be doing with one of these beatdown decks, exploiting the ability to get people's life total low before they can really get too much going. So Shuhei Nakamura, we were saying that he's played a lot of Magic. He's played in more than 2,500 Premier Play matches. We're not talking about just matches of Magic. That's far more matches of Magic than I've played at any level, be those drafts at the side events at Pro Tours or anywhere else. Shuhei has more experience in the top level than I believe anyone else in the game.
I saw the craziest stat I saw for him is that he's played something like 40% of all the Grand Prix that have ever been held.
Which you have to bear in mind that there are many occasions these days where there are multiple Grand Prix happening at the same time. It's not physically possible to be at all of them, but Shuhei Nakamura has tried really hard.
And that's all the ones that have ever been held. The first Grand Prix were in 1996, maybe 97. I think 96.
And a Wingmate Rock there. We see the reason for Shuhei Nakamura's aggression there. He's able to attack without any big worry because
his attack didn't turn out great. Like all his creatures went to the graveyard and Sidisi did not go to the graveyard. But a couple of Wingmate Rocks.
Yeah, it's not going to take too long for those to mop up the last points of damage if Willie Adel doesn't have an answer here. And realistically, potentially, if Willie Adel doesn't have two answers, and that part of the allure of the
Willie
Mythic.
Adel's deck has got answers to creatures. He's got Horned Queens and he's got Dragonlord Atarka.
It looks like he might even have a Crux of Fate in his hand here.
It's pretty interesting to see Dragonlord Atarka showing up in all kinds of different decks. I mean, this is basically a Sidisi whip deck, which wouldn't necessarily have dragons in it, but Atarka seems like a fine thing to whip back.
This
right?
is pretty great. So Willie Adel casts, immediately flips a Den Protector to get back a Murderous Cut. Casts the first Murderous Cut, leaving 4 cards left in his graveyard, including the first one that he cast. Casts a second Murderous Cut, and suddenly Shuhei Nakamura doesn't have a board.
Wow.
It turns out sometimes you don't need Crux of Fate. You want to keep your creatures around, even if they're not on the right side of the dragon's non-dragon split.
That was a crazy turn.
An immediate monstrous Fleece main line, though, from Shuhei Nakamura. So he's definitely not out of this game. But on 10 life, you have to say that things look an awful lot closer than they did just a few turns ago.
Big hero of this round so far for me is Den Protector.
Absolutely. I mean, 5 mana to both play it as a morph and then pay the Megamorph cost on it is a very reasonable rate. You end up with
3/2 and a regrowth. I mean, it's basically Eternal Witness, right?
Yeah, it's a big fat
Eternal Witness.
I mean, it's interesting because by having the Megamorph ability, in some respects, it doesn't open itself up to as many sneaky interactions in terms of things like Restoration
Loops.
Angel in Modern, but it does then mean that it plays very, very well with the likes of Deathless Raptor.
Yeah, and both cards feature in Willie's list.
The second one is what? Lifelink trample.
So Warden of the First Tree there coming from Shuhei Nakamura. Costs just the 1 mana, but I'm willing to bet that he's going to spend a little bit more mana on it at some point fairly soon if he gets the opportunity to. As he gradually gets it up through the levels, gets it extra creature types, he is able to potentially pump it to, well, as large as he could possibly like.
He's 3/3 lifelink trample.
Yeah.
And the last one puts
Plus
5
one.
counters.
Yeah, plus
Only
5.
5 counters,
Yep.
not more.
Only 5 counters.
Only 5 counters, says Shuhei. No biggie. Apart from the fact that it will quite literally make it a big creature.
What a crazy game. The back and forth here has been pretty insane.
As this crazy game carries on, we are about to ready to start our main crazy game. And I think it would be hard to suggest that this crazy game is crazier than what we're likely to see from the likes of Manfield and Parke.
Indestructible creature attacks in to bounce off of the Death Touching Sidisi just to get a couple of Wingmate rocks.
Yeah, this game is not over, but we
Shui's
will
like,
bring
"All
you the
right."
results of that game soon enough, because I don't want to miss any of the big key action plays from Jamie Parke and Seth Manfield. Their game just starting here, and we see there's been a couple of Temple of Malady for Jamie Parke, 1 Temple of Malady and a Sandstep Citadel for Seth Manfield. So we've not missed any action as such, just a little bit of scrying.
See Jamie's stats, 3 Pro Tour top 8s spread out over 3 decades.
Yeah, he's a player who I wasn't particularly familiar with him in his first iteration of play on the Pro Tour, just because it was kind of before my time. But he's sort of come back, and I think that for him a big part of coming back was the camaraderie around a lot of the other older players that have been on the Pro Tour for a while that were experiencing success.
That was a big part of his Pro Tour experience back in the day. I mean, he was essentially a teenager back when, I was playing on the Pro Tour. I played against Jamie. It was back in the 90s. Team Sped was just inventing lingo.
Might as well, am I right?
Exactly, yes. He is the original miser.
Parke here, thinking carefully about his plays. These are very much the setup turns for both of these decks. I think it would be fair to call them kind of big mana decks, at least in terms of what they're trying to achieve.
Sure.
And the Wayfinder here, a very big part of what both of these decks are trying to do, stocking up the graveyard, making sure that you hit land drops too, though, because you can't be a big mana deck without mana.
Card does so much in Standard right now. Filling the graveyard is actively good. Having a random 1/1 body that you can exploit or whatever, it just does so much for a card. It doesn't look that impressive.
Yeah,
I'm so many things.
It did take a little while to really break into Standard. It wasn't necessarily something that in its first printing was immediately a mainstay. But these days, don't leave home without it if you want to play a green deck, because there's so many ways of getting value from the graveyard that the fact that you're finding lands is, if anything, the less important part of this body.
Right. Whether you want to delve, whether you want to play a whip.
Whether you want to cast a Soulflayer with every ability in the land. Now, Disdainful Stroke on the top of Jamie Parke's deck here, a sideboard card that potentially is going to do a lot of work in this matchup, because while Seth Manfield's answers are quite cheap to cast much of the time, many of his threats cost an awful lot, and Disdainful Stroke can counter them for just 2 mana.
Did Chromanticore just hit the yard? Is that what was under the Disdainful Stroke?
I believe that that is the case.
Yep.
Now, it's interesting. Both of these players didn't necessarily reveal some of the more esoteric, shall we say, choices in their decks until comparatively late in Game 1. In Game 2, fairly early on, Jamie Parke has put a Chromanticore in the graveyard. Seth Manfield already has a Nomad Outpost in play, which potentially, in Game 1, might have suggested that there was a little bit more going on than your regular Abzan build. And we've just found out that Willie Adel was able to take that second game against Shuhei Nakamura. We will potentially be able to get a little bit more of that. They are going on to Game 3 now.
Sounds like Hornet Queen was the answer. A couple of Wingmate rocks from Shuhei couldn't really deal with the Hornet Queen.
The bees. You got to be afraid of them. And
Commune for Jamie. Looks like he's taking Deathmist Raptor.
yeah, he's not in a position where he can necessarily get it back from the graveyard anytime particularly soon. I don't know if he wants to pull the trigger on Den Protector just for that. I mean, Den Protector is such a powerful tool in his deck that the incremental moment that it gets extra value with Deathless Raptor is really a bonus. But
Somehow Seth has a hand with 6, 7, and 8. Like, his curve goes all the way up to Ugin now with this hand. Dragonlord Atarka is not even the biggest thing in his hand somehow.
when Dragonlord Atarka ain't good enough,
It wasn't last game?
Absolutely.
Erebos.
Erebos is a very interesting one. Stopping life gain, potentially relevant.
I think that drawing cards, too. If the opponent isn't really pressuring your life total until he gets to 7, then...
And we've already seen that there's a number of copies of Whip of Erebos knocking around in the high-level field in this tournament. So I think all of the individual elements of this potentially good. Also, it's an indestructible creature.
Right.
Yeah, this is not the kind of deck that I would expect a beginner to build. This is a clever, multifaceted machine. I'm not in the least bit surprised that Zvi Moshewicz has been involved in the creation of this deck.
Yeah, Zvi's been talking about the comeback. Like, he's spending a lot of his time playing Magic these days, really enjoying getting back in the game. Here's Torrent Elemental. Might as well throw that angle of attack in as well.
I mean, Torrent Elemental is a great way of sort of leveling up over the top of someone trying to do something like Hornet Queen, because it does mean that you can just sort of tap all of those blockers.
Jamie goes to exile Torrent Elemental due to Abzan Charm. No. Seth just wants to draw 2 cards.
I mean, we all want to draw 2 cards at all times.
And you don't really want to exile Torrent Elemental. That doesn't do a whole lot.
It is something that I think I had a draft where I had it exiled briefly with a suspension field or similar, but that was little more than a road bump.
Dragon count going up. Courser and Wayfinder down.
Will it be good enough? I mean, it might be, especially if we see the follow-up.
I mean, Torrent Elemental does not seem like it wins in a fight with Atarka. But what else can Jamie put together?
I mean, Atarka wins a lot of fights against Ugin.
What if they team up on the same side?
If they're on the same side, it's not a fair fight. If they're fighting against one another, then Atarka can attack for 8. At best, Ugin can loyalty -7 to trade.
All right, Jamie goes for a morph.
Now, based on past experience, it seems likely that this is going to get something back from his graveyard.
It does? Is there a Soulflayer in there? Or just
There's a Murderous Cut.
Okay. Down goes Dragonlord Atarka.
I mean, one of the big strengths of Dragonlord Atarka, and the reason that I think we're going to see it a fair amount at this Pro Tour, is the fact that even with all of this efficient removal around, it's an 8-mana, 5-point burn spell to kind of clear out all of those creatures. It's not the end of the world if your opponent does use a removal spell on it at the first given opportunity.
Right. I mean, Dragonlord Atarka essentially dealt with, I mean, the random 1/1 Wayfinder, but the Courser and the Murderous Cut.
Yeah.
Right, it was essentially a 3-for-1. I mean, the cut came off a Den Protector, but still. Now Seth, he's not done yet. He's got the land. He's got. Do you want Ugin or Elspeth here? I think Ugin, or Whip. Can he whip and activate it?
He needs 8 mana for that. If he has the right colors, I believe he
it's
can.
the same as Ugin. If the color, assuming the color works, I gotta think it does.
He needs 4 black mana to make that work.
Does he have 4 black? 1, 2. I think he does.
Yeah, with the carry seat, he does. But
Whip and activate it. Elspeth's in 3rd place. Whip and activated and Ugin both seem better than Elspeth. Especially, I mean, versus a Torrent Elemental.
an embarrassment of riches here for Seth Manfield.
Oh, Urborg's in play on Jamie's side, so no problem with black mana.
The cheeky point with Sato Wayfinder here.
No blocks.
All right, take 1. And 20.
What was your guess? 13 minutes. Okay.
And what have we got? There's
He
Ugin.
says Ugin, the Spirit Dragon, which, yes, we are counting as a dragon.
Exile.
Yeah, goes down.
But that's exile,
-5.
which does mean that Torrent Elemental is in a happy place in some respects.
Sure. Take a little while to come back.
Yeah, comes back tapped, doesn't necessarily get to do too much too fast, but it all counts. There's a Soulflayer on top. There's a Hero's
Wow.
Downfall in hand for Jamie Parke,
Yeah,
so he's
gotta
not going to
get
let
rid of
Ugin hang around.
Go.
But now Seth has kind of created a board state where Elspeth is actually good.
Yeah, this game very much not over, but when there's
Ooh, self-inflicted wound in from the sideboard.
that an interesting one, a very sort of nice combination of flavor and function. That it really does hurt when someone plays a self-inflicted wound on you. Now, not necessarily the best against Elspeth, because there will be 3 soldier tokens coming down from the Planeswalker there. Soulflayer can potentially come down with many, many abilities next turn. I'm not quite sure on the exact split, but with Chromanticore alone, it's got many, many abilities.
Not haste, though. I don't think there's any way in Jamie's deck to give haste.
Seth Manfield here just refamiliarizing
How many
himself.
abilities?
A goodly number. More than his fair share. I think that, to me, when I look at Soulflayer, I kind of think, well, if it ends up being a flyer, that's pretty good. If it ends up having Death Touch, maybe, that's nice. What happens when Soulflayer gets together with Chromanticore is neither nice nor good. It's something that transcends both of those
Come on,
things.
that all depends which side of the table you're on.
Sure. I mean, maybe this is because I've never cast it that way. That would be great if you could find a way of getting... I mean, there's hexproof in there. I think there's a Sylvan Caryatid. I don't believe that there's indestructible, which would be an important one in the face of Elspeth.
Face down.
Hey, Jamie not going for it. He's worried about his mana. He's worried about his life total.
I mean, his life total is pretty healthy right now, but I can certainly see that there's more efficient use of his mana, and also without indestructible, it may just be it's the wrong time to cast Soulflayer, because you know that if you can get it down and it has that on top, then it's nigh on impossible to get rid of.
You're telling me that Soulflayer removing Chromanticore is not good enough. That's your story.
I'm suggesting that in this matchup, it may make sense to try and go for more. Greed is good.
That's awesome. Did we get? It sounds like Shuhei managed to win Game 3 over Willie Edel.
That's the case, yeah. Shuhei
green-white
Nakamura,
aggro.
2-1 over Willie Adel, so that match now completed. Gradually working our way through these feature matches in the area, and there's Whip of Erebos getting back Dragonlord Atarka. It's just figuring out exactly where to split 5 points of damage here.
Down goes the morph.
And 3 points of damage to one of those Corsair Crucifix. That, not enough to kill it, but is enough to mean that those soldier tokens might not get blocked by it now.
And I get 5, sorry.
Whipping back Atarka, you gain life from the 5 damage.
You're attacking with all 4.
Oh my.
Lifelink interacts with that comes into play ability.
Yeah, I can see how Dragonlord
clearly
Atarka earned his spot.
Need more.
Her spot, sorry.
I'll block a soldier with the undamaged Corsair.
That's fine.
I take 10, I go to 9.
I go up to,
You gain 11, you go up to 31.
yeah, so you're at
I'm at 9, you're at 31. That's what I have.
Crikey.
plus health.
That was a big swing.
Was it big enough? I mean, Jamie survived Ugin. He survived Atarka twice. Seth's kind of running out of gas.
Elspeth's kind of at 6 loyalty, though.
But I mean, the whip doesn't do much else. There's like a Courser hanging out in Seth's graveyard. Is that it? What's the first card?
In Seth's graveyard,
Yeah.
he has Ugin, 2 Abzan Charm, Corsair, and I'm not quite sure what that last one is. It may be Tasigur.
Oh, it's Tasigur, so he's not out of gas. Never mind.
I mean, 4 mana for Tasigur.
And 4 mana to activate it.
That's kind of interesting.
It's not nothing.
And a result from our King of the Hill table, Patrick Chapin, continues to defend his throne.
Oh, still the king.
The Dragon Throne of Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. 5-0 now, Patrick Chapin. We will see him in the feature match area next round.
All right.
We will
It
see
is time.
Soulflayer in the feature match area right now. Let's see exactly how many abilities we can stack onto this one creature here.
Well, Chromanticore. Plus, we'll pick up hexproof from the carry added.
It may be that there's no more...
Death touch from the raptor if he wants it. There's a deathness raptor in there.
I mean, first strike and death touch is a pretty neat combination too.
So it becomes a 4/4 flying.
It's a Chromanticore hexproof.
Chromanticore.
He did not
Yeah.
exile the deathness raptor because he wants to be able to get it back, presumably. So it's basically Chromanticore plus hexproof.
Though, that does mean that it's liable to Elspeth's -2, right?
It is not indestructible. Elspeth's winning this board, right?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, Elspeth is not under any pressure.
Yeah, it may well be that...
Torrent Elemental feels too slow. Seth gained enough life that, you know, even one biggish Torrent Elemental attack is not going to be good enough. And I don't know that the life link on that Soulflayer is enough to actually race.
So you think that the line here is to just keep making tokens and not worry too much about the Soulflayer for now?
I think I would plus the Elspeth here. Sure, let's see what's going on first, even better.
And there we see Erebos, God of the Dead, and Murderous Cut. It's funny, if this had happened a turn earlier, Jamie Parke would have loved for that Erebos, God of the Dead to go to the graveyard.
I think if this happened to turn earlier, Seth would have taken Soulflayer.
Fair. So Murderous Cut hits the bin, just leaving Erebos, God of the Dead in Jamie Parke's hand. Unclear that he's really going to be able to do too much card drawing here. And there is the -2
Yeah,
from...
Seth goes down.
Yeah, Elspeth takes down the Soulflayer.
I guess seeing that Jamie has no follow-up in his hand. I mean, Erebos doesn't do a ton on this board. Jamie's only got 9 life. He can't draw that many cards. Self-inflicted wounds, going to kill a Courser.
And do 2 damage on top of that. So that's effectively getting in 3 damage for him. Gets back Tasigur.
Who needs Elspeth's ultimate? Just serve with everything.
Jamie Parke on 7 here. He can't afford to let that Tasigur get through.
Yeah, he's got to worry about winning game 3 right now. That's what he's got to worry about.
And time might be a factor too.
Oh yeah,
I mean, this
there's
has
not a ton
not
of time
been
left in the round.
a
This has definitely
particularly
been slow.
quick set of games.
You gain 9.
It's not been that either player's been playing particularly slowly. It's just that the way that these decks are winning is by gradually building up an inevitability and then executing on it. And doing that takes a bit of time.
Yeah, I think I have it at around 10 minutes left in the round for these guys. I think there's only about 7 minutes left. Oh, my bad. Time's actually been called on the main floor, so these guys have maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll try and get an update on the exact time left in the round soon enough. So we think it may be sort of about 3-ish minutes, but suffice to say, when we hit time, we'll know about it. Another Soulflayer here.
Can Jamie survive a turn?
Go.
What is
It's
it?
all out on the table. And there's another minus. Bye-bye Soulflayer.
Get to it.
And players are going to have to shuffle up pretty quick if they want to get out of the draw bracket on this one.
This sure looks like a draw. Seth Manfield, boy, it took a lot to finish off Jamie Parke that game.
Yeah.
First it was Atarka, did some work, ate a removal spell. Then Ugin came down, cleaned up the rest of what was left, ate a hero's downfall, crucially. Elspeth plus the whip finally managed to run Jamie out of resources. It was really the Elspeth.
there was also
It's a draw.
the whipped back Atarka.
Of course.
Like, when you double dragon someone normally, you know, they stay double dragon.
Yeah, the game still felt kind of close even after that. Wow, these decks can do some powerful things. And it looks like they're just resigned to a draw. Yeah, I see them filling out the score sheet right now. They're not even going to bother trying to play a third game. They know neither one of these decks is capable of winning in 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the only way that the game would end up in anything but a draw would be if one player got truly the most horrendous draw imaginable. Even then, it would be tight. I can see potentially if you cast Wayfinder into Tasiga and weird things happen, then maybe, but it's not worth worrying about for them. So that is our last match from the feature match area. We can see there the players just de-sideboarding, getting ready for their next round. They have plenty more standard to play, but congratulations to some of the deck builders. I mean, obviously we've seen some great plays, some great lines.
Right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Zveen, known as one of the great innovative deck builders of all time.
Without question.
While he obviously has the Pro Tour Hall of Fame he has got a Pro Tour win. To my mind, a big part of it is the way that he approaches deck building and the way that he's changed the face of deck building over the years with his innovations.
I mean, he might be the best deck builder in the history of the game. He's definitely in the conversation.
But that is the end of our round 5. I'm sure that we'll be seeing plenty more from both of those players and those decks for the rest of the tournament. But we're going to hand over to the news desk.
Chromantiflayer. Chromantiflayer. Fantastic. How much fun is that? And we're just 2 rounds deep into standard. We've got a lot deeper to go, I can assure you. So there we are, 1 and 1. It's time to track some dragons here at Pro Tour Dragons of Tarkir. We got through 14. Our first round of standard drew a blank, but as we look at our dragon tracker, how many will we have got up to? I'm pretty sure we saw some this round. Let's take a look. It's 19. 19 dragons, 3 rounds to go here on day 1. We'll do it all again tomorrow. At this rate, I think we're heading for somewhere 60, 70 maybe. We'll see how many dragons turn up under the lights. I would say they'd be pretty hot under the lights, but probably the dragons don't really care, except maybe Icefall Regent. Don't think he'd like that. So that's the dragons tracker for you. We've got a new little feature for you now. Our cameraman, Jack Lipke, has been able to get out onto the floor, and we're going to show you now 4 from the floor. And I want to start you off with Ben Friedman of the United States. He came into this at 4-0. There he is at table 1 on the left of your screen. And he was up against, he's been around the Pro Tour forever, still pretty young, early 20s. There you see a board state from game 1. Lots of exciting Planeswalker stuff going on there. He was up against Rick Lee in his 3rd Pro Tour from Malaysia. And it was the Malaysian who won and went to 5-0. So congratulations to him. Now, our second match on 4 from the floor, that featured Ivan Flock of the Slovak Republic. Now, this there he is, just a couple of tables down. As we know, a studious player, a control player very much, a Pro Tour champion looking to get to 5-0. As we look, there's their board state. Again, this was game 1, and there were a lot of permanents. And on the other side of the table, you had Min Nguyen of the United States, 10 Grand Prix starts, 57% win rate, first Pro Tour, doing terrific at 4-0, but it was Ivan Flock who took the 5th win to go to 5-0. Well, what about Eric Froelich of the United States? On the verge, perhaps, of a Hall of Fame run. There you see him just after game 1. Froelich from the Channel Fireball squad, a terrific player, and he was up against Alessandro Cosi, playing in his first Pro Tour. It was Froelich who took that one. Froelich went to 5-0. Cosi, you see there, the young man from Italy in his first Pro Tour, he fell to 4-1. And so there you see the 2 of them, Adrian Sullivan just there in the background. And then finally, on our 4 from the floor for round 5, that's tough to say, Tom Martell, the Pro Tour Gatecrash champion. There you see him shuffling up for game 2. And again, a terrific start for Martell, getting to 4-0. He was up against Andrea Mengucci, the Italian who was so long king of the hill, made the top 8 of Journey into Nyx at that particular Pro Tour. And it was the Italian, Andrea Mengucci, who went to 5-0, inflicting the first defeat on Tom Martell. So a little bit of action for you there. 4 from the floor. We're going to try and do that every constructed round moving forward for you. Hopefully you see some of your favorite players in a little bit of action out on the floor. But right now it's time to toss you across to the video wall once again in tandem, Brian David Marshall and Ian Duke. And this time they're going to walk you through some of the possibilities of green-white devotion.